In 1952, the average American family did not own a single screen bigger than a postcard. No cell phones, no GPS, no internet. And yet, somehow, they raised the baby boomers, built the interstate highway system, and put a man on the moon. Number 18 on this list was so essential that every American household owned one, and today, most kids would not even recognize it. And number 3, historians say it kept families closer than anything technology has invented since. These 25 ways of living got quietly erased from American life, one convenience at a time. But here is what nobody talks about. The folks who lived this way were not missing anything. They had something we lost. Hit that subscribe button because this one might hit harder than you think. Let us count down 25 ways Americans lived without relying on technology. Number 25, memorizing phone numbers. Before the smartphone became an external brain, every American carried dozens of numbers in their head. Your mother could recite your grandmother's number, your father's office, the family doctor, and the corner drugstore without pausing. By 1965, AT&T's own surveys showed the average adult knew between 25 and 40 phone numbers by memory. You wrote important ones on a little pad by the kitchen wall phone, sure, but daily life ran on recall. Kids memorized their home number before kindergarten, reciting it like a prayer in case they got lost at Woolworth's. There was something almost tribal about it. Each number was a person you cared enough about to carry with you. Today, most Americans couldn't recite their own spouse's cell number from memory. We outsourced the people we love to a device, and we called it an upgrade. Number 24, Rand McNally road maps. Every American glove box held a Rand McNally road atlas, folded and refolded until the creases wore white. When your dad planned a family trip to Yellowstone in 1958, he spread that map across the kitchen table the night before, tracing the route in pencil with your mother, looking over his shoulder. A full United States atlas cost $1.95 at the gas station. Individual state maps were free at Texaco and Esso, handed over with a smile and a tank of gas. Reading a map was a real skill. You had to understand the legend, measure distances with your thumb, and know which direction the sun was in at noon. Families got lost, and that was part of the adventure. Today, Google Maps tells you to turn in 500 feet, and nobody looks up from the dashboard. We gained efficiency and lost the view out the window. Number 23, TV Guide magazine. Every Thursday for 40 years, a copy of TV Guide landed in American mailboxes, and Friday night became planning night. Your mother would sit at the kitchen table after dinner with a pen circling the shows for the week. Bonanza on Sunday. I Love Lucy reruns Wednesday. The Ed Sullivan Show was underlined twice. By 1974, TV Guide was selling 19 million copies a week, the most read magazine in America. The little square digest was the size of a paperback and cost 15 cents. It wasn't just a schedule. It was a shared cultural calendar. The whole neighborhood knew Milton Berle came on at 8 on Tuesday because everyone read the same TV Guide. When the whole country watched the moon landing in 1969, they knew when to turn the set on because TV Guide told them. Today, we scroll endless streaming menus and somehow end up watching nothing. Number 22, the library card catalog. Before Google, Americans solved problems in rooms that smelled like old paper and furniture polish. Every public library had a wooden cabinet of long, narrow drawers, each filled with 3x5 index cards organized by author, title, and subject. The Dewey Decimal System was taught in 4th grade and expected of every American adult. You looked up Civil War battles, wrote down the call number 973.73, and walked to the shelf to find the book. It taught patience, it taught research, and it taught you that sometimes the book you found was not the one you were looking for, but it was better. By 1985, the average American visited the library 4.4 times a year. Librarians were trusted community figures who knew your name and your children's names. The card catalog is gone now, most pulled out in the 1990s and sold as furniture. But the skill of searching with intention went with it. Number 21. Writing letters. A first-class stamp cost 3 cents in 1952, and Americans used them by the billions. Your grandmother wrote to her sister in Des Moines every Sunday afternoon at the kitchen table, fountain pen in hand, describing the week in 3 neat pages. Soldiers wrote home. Sweethearts wrote across state lines. Grandparents sent birthday cards with a crisp dollar bill folded inside. The United States Postal Service delivered 84 billion pieces of mail a year at its peak. And a handwritten letter was how you told someone they mattered. You could read the mood in the handwriting, the slant when she was happy, the pressure when she was worried. People saved letters in shoeboxes under the bed for 50 years, tied with ribbon. Today we send a text and forget it the same hour. A letter took effort, and that effort was the point. The medium itself said, "I love you enough to sit down." Number 20. Recipe index cards. Every American kitchen had a metal recipe box, usually an Ohio art tin, usually sitting on top of the refrigerator, full of handwritten 3x5 cards. Your grandmother's meatloaf was on a card, splattered with grease from 20 years of Thursdays. Aunt Ruth's pecan pie, Mrs. Henderson's angel biscuits, the pot roast that went to every church potluck, all of it written in cursive by the woman who made it. Kids learned to cook by pulling cards and following them. Weddings came with a tradition. The bride's shower included every woman present writing her best recipe on a card for the newlywed starter box. These boxes became family history you could eat. When your grandmother died, the recipe box was the first thing anyone fought over because it was her in a way nothing else was. Today, recipes live in apps and die with broken phones. That tin box held 3 generations. Number 19, the milkman. 3 mornings a week in 1955, you would hear the clink of glass bottles before the sun came up. Mr. Henderson from Borden's Dairy left fresh milk, butter, eggs, and sometimes cottage cheese in the insulated box on your porch. A quart of milk cost 23 cents, and you put your order card in the empty bottles at night. By 1963, nearly 30% of American households still got home milk delivery. The glass bottles were deposit return, so nothing was wasted. Kids raced to the porch barefoot on the cold wood to bring the bottles in before school. The cream sat on top in a thick yellow layer, and your mother would skim it off for her coffee. Milkmen knew every family on the route: the new babies, the sick grandpas, the old ladies who left a nickel tip under the bottle. Convenience replaced community, one stop at a time. Number 18, the Encyclopedia Britannica. This is the one every American household once owned. In 1960, a set of the Encyclopedia Britannica cost $398, nearly a month's wages. Door-to-door salesmen made it the second largest selling set of books in American history, right behind the Bible. That leather-bound row on the living room shelf wasn't decoration. It was your kids' access to the world. Homework got done at the dining room table with volume 14 cracked open to mammals. You didn't search, you browsed. And browsing meant you learned things you didn't know you wanted to know. Parents saved for years to afford a set, often buying on installment plans at $10 a month. Here's what changed everything. In 2012, after 244 years in print, Britannica stopped printing. Wikipedia had killed it, but studies from the University of Michigan showed kids who grew up with physical encyclopedias had better long-term retention and broader general knowledge. We swapped depth for speed and didn't notice until the shelves were empty. Number 17, the backyard clothesline. On Monday mornings across America, women hung wet laundry on clotheslines that stretched between T-posts in the backyard. It was called Wash Day, and it was a ritual. Your mother would pin sheets, shirts, and diapers with wooden clothespins kept in a canvas bag, working in rhythm. The sun did for free what Tide and a dryer now do for $1,500. It bleached, disinfected, and dried clothes. A 1960 dryer cost $200. A clothesline cost $2 and lasted a lifetime. Clothes dried on a line smelled like sunshine in a way nothing synthetic replicates. Neighbors could tell the week's events from the laundry. Newborn in the house, diapers on the line, company coming, the good tablecloth. Suburban homeowners associations started banning clotheslines in the 1970s, calling them eyesores. We took something free and made it forbidden and started paying a utility bill for the privilege. Number 16, the payphone. For a nickel in 1965, you could call home from anywhere in America. Every street corner, bus station, drugstore, and gas station had a payphone, 2.6 million nationwide at the peak. A glass booth with a folding door and a little shelf for your change was how you reached your parents when the movie let out, how a broken-down driver got help, how a soldier called his girl before shipping out. Kids carried a dime for the call home, tucked in a shoe or a wallet. There was a whole etiquette to payphones. Wait your turn, keep it short, and don't eavesdrop. Movies built entire plots around them. The frantic call, the phone ringing in an empty booth. At their height, payphones generated $1.2 billion a year in revenue. By 2020, fewer than 100,000 remained. We gained the ability to call from anywhere and lost the public infrastructure that connected strangers in emergencies. Number 15, the Sears Roebuck Wish Book. The Sears catalog weighed 4 pounds and landed on the kitchen table every fall, and Christmas in America began that day. Your kids sat on the living room floor with a pen, circling every toy, sweater, and bicycle they wanted. The catalog had 1,400 pages and carried 150,000 different items, from dresses to power tools to full houses you could order and build from the delivered lumber Sears shipped homes. Between 1908 and 1940, over 70,000 American families lived in a house that arrived by train. A catalog cost nothing. You filled out the order form, mailed it with a check, and 2 weeks later the brown truck came. Farm families in Iowa had the same shopping access as New York debutantes. The democracy of it was real. When Sears printed its last big book in 1993, it marked the end of a 100-year ritual that turned anticipation itself into the gift. Number 14, the bank passbook. Every American kid learned to save in a little blue or green bank book. You walked into First National with your dollar bill, handed it to the teller in her cage, and she stamped a new line in your passbook showing your new balance. Interest was calculated quarterly, by hand, and you watched the number grow in neat typewriter print. In 1962, over 75% of American savings accounts used passbooks. You knew your teller by name. Mrs. Williams at First National remembered your birthday and your mother's maiden name. Banking was a relationship, not an app. There were Christmas clubs where you deposited $5 a week for 50 weeks and got a check for $250 in December to do your shopping. People treated banks like neighborhood institutions because they were. Today, the average American has changed banks 3 times and could not pick their bank manager out of a lineup. We got convenience. They had trust. Number 13, drive-in movies. At dusk on a Friday in 1958, you would pile the kids into the back of the Chevy in pajamas, drive to the Starlight Drive-In outside of town, and pay $3 a carload. There were 4,063 drive-in theaters in America in 1958, outnumbering indoor cinemas for the first and only time. You would hook the metal speaker onto your window, eat popcorn from a waxed bag, and watch a double feature under the stars. Kids fell asleep in the back seat before the second movie ended. Teenagers went on first dates in the front seat, knowing their parents would not drop in. The concession stand sold hot dogs for a quarter. When the film broke, and it always did, the whole lot would honk in protest and then laugh together when it came back. Today, fewer than 300 drive-ins remain. The land got too valuable, and the kids got screens of their own. Community under the stars got traded for earbuds in a dark room. Number 12, the Rolodex. Here's where it gets interesting. Every American office desk had a Rolodex, that rotating wheel of index cards with names, phone numbers, and sometimes a birthday written in pencil. Businessmen guarded them like gold. A good salesman's Rolodex had 500 cards, and when he changed jobs, he took it with him. Your professional life was that little wheel. At home, your mother kept a smaller address book in the kitchen drawer, its spine broken from years of opening. Every Christmas, she pulled it out to address cards. Here's the clever part. Writing someone's address by hand, year after year, meant you remembered where they lived. You knew the postal codes of your family. Research on handwriting and memory has consistently shown that people who handwrite addresses maintain stronger mental maps of their social networks because the physical act cements the relationship in memory. We digitized our contacts and accidentally forgot our people. Number 11, wind-up alarm clocks. Every American nightstand held a Big Ben or Baby Ben alarm clock with brass bells on top, loud enough to wake the dead. You wound it before bed, a little key on the back, twist, 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 and set the alarm, hand to 6:15. When it went off, the whole room rattled. A Westclox Baby Ben cost $4.95 in 1955 and lasted 40 years. There was no snooze button. You either got up or you didn't. The ticking filled the bedroom like a second heartbeat. Millions of Americans slept better with that sound than without it. Kids learned to tell time on these clocks because the hands were big and clear. A broken alarm clock meant a trip to the jeweler who would open it up and fix the gears for $1. Today we sleep next to our phones, wake up to notifications, and wonder why we feel anxious before our feet hit the floor. Number 10, film photography. Before digital, every American moment had to count. A roll of Kodak 35mm film held 24 shots and cost $3.99. You took the picture and you waited. Sometimes you waited a week for the 1-hour Photoshop to turn into a 3-day wait. When the envelope finally came back, the whole family crowded around the kitchen table to see. Some shots were beautiful, some were blurry. A few were always doubles, your thumb, a headless uncle. The photos got put in albums with little corner tabs and labeled on the back in ballpoint pen. Michael's 6th birthday, June 1964. Kodachrome slides held their color for 100 years. Polaroid cameras gave instant prints, and you could watch the image develop in your hand. Americans took roughly 12 billion photos a year in 1990. We take that many in a week now and remember almost none of them. The scarcity was what made the memory. Number 9, rabbit ear antennas. Every American TV set had a pair of telescoping metal antennas on top, and tuning them in was a family sport. Your father would stand behind the television, adjusting the ears, while your mother called out from the couch, "Right, no, more to the left, hold it there." Sometimes you wrapped aluminum foil around the tips for extra reach. Wind, rain, an airplane overhead, anything could snow the picture out. A UHF dial clicked through channels that barely came in. In 1965, the average American home had 3 channels and made peace with it. You watched what was on because the alternative was a test pattern and the Indian head card. Prime time was a national event. When The Fugitive ended in 1967, 78 million Americans watched the same final episode on the same night. Today we have 500 channels and nothing to say to each other at work on Monday. Number 8, the Sunday radio. Before television took over, Sunday afternoon in America belonged to the radio. The whole family gathered around a Walnut Philco or a Zenith console in the living room to listen to the Jack Benny program, Fibber McGee and Molly, or the CBS Radio Mystery Theater. A 1946 Philco cost $60 and it lasted for decades. Without pictures, you made them in your head. Kids drew the characters, adults closed their eyes. Your imagination worked the way a muscle works regularly, or it weakened. Researchers studying audio-only storytelling have shown it activates more of the brain than video because the listener has to build the scene. Franklin Roosevelt's fireside chats reached 62 million Americans when the country's population was 130 million. Roughly half the country listened together on the same evening. Radio didn't divide us into algorithms. It gathered us into a shared room, even when we were 1,000 miles apart. Number 7, Road trips without GPS. A family road trip in 1964 started with a full tank of Sinclair gasoline at 29 cents a gallon, a thermos of coffee, and zero idea what was around the next bend. When you got lost, and you always got lost, you pulled into a Texaco station and asked the attendant in the bow tie. He would point with a pencil at the free map, mark it with an X, and say 2 miles down this road, turn left at the Red Barn. Gas station attendants were America's GPS. They knew their county by heart. Howard Johnson's roadside restaurants with their orange roofs dotted every major highway, 28 flavors of ice cream, and a clean restroom. Getting lost was how you found things. A wrong turn became a lake you swam in, a diner you remembered forever, a town with a real main street. Today we follow the blue line and never look up. Number 6. Layaway at department stores. Before credit cards ate America, there was layaway. Your mother walked into Montgomery Ward in October with your Christmas list, picked out the blue bicycle and the doll with real hair, and paid $5 down. Every week until Christmas, she'd come back with $3 or $4, and the clerk would mark her payment card. When it was paid off, she took it home. Layaway meant you couldn't afford things you didn't have money for. It built patience, planning, and the discipline of saving towards something real. In 1975, over 40% of American families used layaway for major purchases. There was no debt, no interest, and no missed payment fee. If you couldn't keep up, you got your money back, minus a small service charge. Christmas morning meant something because someone had paid for that bike $1 at a time for 3 months. We traded patience for plastic and wondered why we felt broke all the time. At 6 in the morning, in every American neighborhood, a 12-year-old kid on a Schwinn Stingray with a canvas bag full of papers made his rounds. Your son delivered 50 copies of the Chicago Tribune, learned the names of every customer, and collected 75 cents a week on Friday evenings. A paper route was a kid's first job and his first business. He learned to make change, to deal with complaints when a customer said the paper was thrown in the bushes, to save for a new bike, and to show up every single morning, rain or snow. In 1965, there were around 800,000 newspaper carriers under the age of 18 in America. The route taught responsibility in a way no adult could. When the kid rang your doorbell on collection night, you handed him $1 and told him to keep the quarter. He beamed. Today's 12-year-olds order DoorDash on their parents' phones. We took away a job that built character and replaced it with nothing. Number 4. Home canning season. August in America used to smell like vinegar and simmering tomatoes. Your grandmother would spend a full week putting up the year's preserves, quart jars of green beans from the garden, pint jars of strawberry jam, dill pickles and brine, peach halves in syrup, tomato sauce for winter spaghetti. A 1955 Kerr Mason jar cost 12 cents. You filled it, sealed it with a metal lid and ring, and processed it in a boiling water bath for 45 minutes. The basement shelves filled up with colored glass, a pantry that lasted the whole winter. By 1943, over 4 million American households were canning at home under the Victory Garden program. It continued long after the war because it was smart. A bushel of tomatoes bought in August for $2 fed the family until April. Skills were taught mother to daughter on porches in the heat. We outsourced our pantry to Amazon and called it progress. Number 3, the front porch. Here's the one historians say kept families closer than anything ever invented. Before air conditioning conquered America in the 1960s, summer evenings belonged to the front porch. Every house had one, every family used one. Your grandparents sat in wicker chairs or on a hanging swing after supper, fanning themselves, watching the kids play kick the can in the street. A 1952 survey showed the average American knew the first and last names of 11 neighbors. Today, it is 3. Porches made that possible. Conversations happened in passing. Mr. Miller's wife was sick. You knew because the porch told you. The new family at the end of the block got welcomed with a pie. Kids could be watched by every adult on the block without anyone calling it surveillance. Architects call it The third place, not home, not work, but community. Central air conditioning drove Americans inside and behind glass. The porch is still there. It is just empty. Number 2, the party line. For 60 years of American life, your phone wasn't just yours. Rural Americans especially shared a party line, one telephone line connected to 4, 8, sometimes 15 households, each with a distinctive ring pattern. 2 short rings and a long ring meant the Andersons. 1 long ring meant the Browns. By 1950, nearly 75% of American homes with phones were on party lines. A monthly party line cost $3.50. A private line was $8. You picked up the receiver, and sometimes Mrs. Henderson was already talking to her sister. You hung up politely and tried again later. It sounds primitive, but here's the thing. The whole neighborhood was connected in a way no app has replicated. When someone was sick, the whole line knew. When a baby was born, the word spread in an hour. Yes, there was eavesdropping, but there was also community. When Ma Bell rolled out private lines, she sold us privacy. What we bought was isolation. And finally, in first place, the Sunday family dinner. Every Sunday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon after church, your grandmother set a table for 8, 12, sometimes 15 people. Roast beef, mashed potatoes, green beans from a jar she put up in August, a homemade pie on the sideboard. 3 generations around the same table every single week without fail. In 1960, 73% of American families ate Sunday dinner together, most with extended family. Grandfathers told stories about the war. Aunts asked about school. Uncles argued about baseball. Cousins met the kids they'd marry at that table. The meal took 4 hours, start to finish, and nobody was on a screen because there were no screens. The food was real, the conversation was real, and the belonging was real. A Harvard 75-year study on happiness found that one thing mattered more than money, fame, or career success: strong relationships. Sunday dinner built those relationships on a weekly schedule. By 2020, fewer than 22% of American families still held Sunday dinners. We got more food, more entertainment, more everything, but we lost the 1 hour a week that taught children who they were, where they came from, and that they belonged to something bigger than themselves. Grandma's table was the most important technology America ever had, and we stopped sitting at it. Here's my challenge. This week, pick just one. Call someone whose number you used to know, sit on your porch, write a letter, turn off the GPS, and get lost on purpose. Have Sunday dinner with the whole family and make the pie from scratch. Then come back and tell me in the comments if it felt different, because your grandparents weren't primitive. They were connected in ways we've forgotten how to be. Share which one you're going to try. I want to know. Hit subscribe, because sometimes the old ways weren't the old ways. They were the right ways.